Throughout history, freethinkers have outraged the religious with their wacky ideas about the virtues of free speech, reason, and of course, eating babies. Now, God is dying, and it's time to dispose of his remains. From the pits of hell, Satan sends two puppets of the imperialist West and the Zionist Jews against God, Islam, and tiny kittens to bring you their propaganda and conspire for a new world order. This is Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment with Ali Rizvi and Armin Navabi.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment. My name is Ali Rizvi. I'm the author of The Atheist Muslim, A Journey from Religion to Reason. And with me is Armin Navabi. He is the founder of Atheist Republic and the author of Why There Is No God. This is an episode I've been looking forward to, and we've been thinking about doing one on this topic for quite a while. This is a topic that's actually quite close to home for many of us. And it started for me personally around the end of 2014. I'd written an article in 2014 called An Open Letter to Moderate Muslims. And there was a guy in Atlanta, a really great guy, a very, very smart guy, an author named Avijit Roy. And, he was a Bangladeshi American, and he had published it on his blog that he had founded, and it was called Mukto-Mona. And this was a combination Bangladeshi or Bengali language and English language blog. And I started corresponding with him a little bit. And a few months later, in around February 2015, we found out that he had gone to Dhaka in Bangladesh for a book fair, and he had been attacked by Islamic fundamentalists, and he had been hacked to death with machetes. He was there with his wife, Bonya Ahmed. Both of them were attacked. Avijit didn't survive. He died. And this was obviously something that really shook all of us, and it shook me personally as well. It was also just a month after Raif Badawi in Saudi Arabia had been flogged. He'd been whipped 50 times by the Saudi government. It's, again, simply for writing and blogging and doing what I do here. These are, when you know these people, it really, really shakes you. And this was just the beginning. So we had Avijit, after he died, there were a series of other secular bloggers in Bangladesh. Washiqur Rahman, Niloy Neel, Ananta Bijoy, Faisal Dipan, and several others. And this is something that's continuing to this day. So most recently, we had another blogger, another writer. His name is, was it Shahjahan Raihan? I think that was his name.
Yes, Shahjahan Bachchu.
Or Shahjahan Bachchu. And he was... he was an open atheist. He was very, very vocal about his secularism and secular activist as well. And he was, as just a couple of days ago, he was shot to death in Bangladesh. So this is something that has been that continues to this day. And when the prime minister at the time, I think it was Khalida Zia, when she was asked about this, Sheikh
Hasina.
It was Sheikh Hasina. I'm sorry. It wasn't Khalida Zia. When she was asked about it, she just said, well, they shouldn't be criticizing Islam. So even though Bangladesh isn't officially it's supposed to be a secular country, but, if they don't have blasphemy laws, they are okay with just throwing you to the mob,
Classic
so this is something, right? a discussion. It's classic victim blaming. So this is something that we're going to get into. And this brings me to our guest, and I can't think of a better person to talk about this today. He's a personal hero of mine, and he is a true free speech hero. And I guess you could say that this episode is really about the importance of free speech and the cost of speaking out in places where free speech is not a right. It's a luxury for people. So with us today is Raihan Abir. Raihan, welcome to Secular Jihadists podcast. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Ali, for for your kind words.
Of course, and I just wanted. We'll let you do most of. We'll let you tell your story, but I wanted to just introduce a little bit of your history broadly. So you were a colleague of Avijit Roy. You volunteer for Mukto-Mona as well. And he was also your co-author. You wrote a book with him called The Philosophy of Disbelief. During these attacks, while these attacks were happening, and they're happening to this day, you have these Islamic militants and terrorists attacking secular bloggers and writers in Bangladesh. They produced a kill list, and this was a group called the Ansarullah Bangla Team. It's an Islamic group, and they on the kill list, it was accompanied with the message, quote, "Let Bangladesh revoke the citizenship of these enemies of Islam." And, they're talking about the bloggers. "If not, we will hunt them down in whatever part of God's world we find them and kill them right there," end quote. One of the names on the list was yours, Raihan, and you eventually had to suffer through a lot of death threats, and you fortunately were able to leave the country, right? And now you're in Canada with us. And after you left, they tried to come and get you too, and they tried to attack you. But fortunately, you had left at your time. You'd moved your family away, so and you knew it was your turn. So recently, you continue to speak out, and finally, you won very deservedly the PEN Canada Ken Filkow Prize for showing extraordinary courage in opposing restraint on freedom of expression of ideas. So we're very happy to have you here. Armin, sorry.
No, when you say, can you explain what you mean? He knew that it was his turn, because I think there's a story behind it. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, he was on the list, so I'll let him explain that when we come to it, because he was on the kill list, so he knew that he's pretty much in line, because these were many of his colleagues. Anyway,
go ahead.
We're going to let you go ahead. But anyway, welcome again. It's a huge honor to have you here. Free speech is a global issue right now, but I don't think there's anybody who's more familiar and closer to it, closer to the fight for it than you and your friends and your colleagues, many of whom have sacrificed their life for it. So I guess I just want to ask you first, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from in Bangladesh? How did you get involved in this kind of work and so on?
I was born in Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, and I got involved with the secular community back in 2007, when internet became popular in Bangladesh, and there were some community blogged people developed. And so one of the community blog was Shochalayaton, which was an online writers platform. So I used to go there, read the blogs, and I knew Avijit Roy before 2007. He published his first book in 2005. So during that time, I was in my university. So when I read that book, it was the title of the book was a line from a Nobel poet Rabindranath Tagore, which was someone is walking with a torch in the darkness. So the book was about the ultimate questions of life, universe, and everything, how the universe created, how the life evolved.
This was Rabindranath Tagore, the poet who won the Nobel Prize for Literature from the Bengali poet, right?
Yeah, so Abhijit took the title from one of his poem. So that was his first book. It was written about astronomy, evolution. So when I started reading that book, it was really, really enlightening, because he openly wrote that the universe can be created without having any interference from any almighty. There are perfectly reasonable explanations for how we became human through evolution. So it was really an eye-opening. So in 2007, when I started blogging. Avijit used to write there as well. So, but during that time, I wasn't an atheist. I am always like open-minded, but I wasn't an atheist. I did believe in God. So in 2007, November, Avijit wrote an article named The Scientific Book on the quotation mark. So on that book, he wrote about some contradictions, scientific contradictions we can see on Quran, of how the universe created and how we became human, and other propaganda stuff Muslim used to say.
This was translated in English as well, right? There was an English version of this article?
Yeah.
Because I remember reading it, and I actually, when I was writing my book, I was talking about the embryological claims that are in the Quran. Yes. And so I remember reading that and seeing how he countered a lot of that. And that was a fantastic article, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So that article, actually, I would say the moment of enlightenment for me. Right. So it completely shook me, because I did used to believe those things. Like, for example, in the Quran, the theory of Big Bang is mentioned, right? But then I realized that nothing is true; it's all false. But I did have one question to ask Abhijit on that blog. So I wrote that we also heard about that there is a mathematical miracle in Quran with number 19 that you can divide that.
I remember reading about that growing up. Everybody used to talk.
Yeah, I wasted so much time counting words in the Quran. You have no idea. I have so many Excel spreadsheets on that, just because people were challenging me that how could it not be the word of God if it has like the number of days and number of nights are the same. I actually, the thing is that they didn't actually count. They just believed it. I actually went and started counting, and none of it is true, and no, they don't count it. They just accept it. Yeah.
They just say it. Yeah. But anyway, go on. So the number 19.
Yeah. So I wasn't like Armin when I knew about Miracle 19. I thought it's true. And I also wrote like part of Bangla Wikipedia article on Al-Quran and wrote that people claim that there is Miracle 19 existed Quran. Yeah. So I told Avijit that what's the deal with this one? So he gave me some links, and I read about those links and found out that it's complete made up and has no basis of anything. So I thought, okay, let me write about debunking this Miracle 19, because I did have committed a crime writing on Wikipedia about it. So I wrote an article explaining that Miracle 19 it doesn't exist in Quran, and you can find any kind of mathematical miracle in any kind of book if you like search it if you want to do it. And that's how I got involved with Mukto-Mona, because Abhijit, when I wrote that article, Abhijit told me that you should start writing for Mukto-Mona, and I did, and that's how I became, like, soon after that moment of enlightenment, I became an atheist, and I understood that there is for sure no God which is defined by the Judo-Christianity or Muslims' faith. It's absolutely, he didn't exist. So I started writing about topics that interest me, for example, logic and physics and biology. So in 2009, Avijit came to Bangladesh, and we decided that we should write a comprehensive book on atheism. Like, people have so many questions why we don't believe in God. We should sit together and write our thoughts on all the topics we we can have. So
I'm sorry, when was this, Raihan? This was in
2009.
In 2009. So this is when Avijit came to Bangladesh, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Avijit and Bonya, they both came to Bangladesh 2009. Avijit that time was writing a book on homosexuality. So we decided that we should write a book on atheism. So our inspiration was the Victor J. Stenger's Neo-Atheist. So something like that, like addressing all common questions of why we don't believe in God. So that book came out in 2011. It was very well received, among our friends and also outside.
That book was well received?
Yeah, very, very well received. Yeah.
What was the title?
So in 2012, again? It was The Philosophy of Disbelief.
How is it that a book like that gets well received in such a religious community?
So we do have a very rigid religious community, but we do have also a huge portion of secular people who wants to read about science, wants to read about atheism, secularism. So we do have a good portion of population who are willing to read if there are content. So
they are much more than Pakistan, I know, because for those of you who don't, some of our audience, they don't know that much.
We
about
want to get into that history, at some point. Yeah.
So I'll just briefly say that Bangladesh was originally part of Pakistan. So India was split into West Pakistan, which is currently Pakistan, and East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh. And then those two countries further split in 1971 with a really bloody war that was really an atrocity on Bangladesh, on Bengalis actually, and then that's when Bangladesh was formed. But Bangladesh is a lot more. Even the people, they tend to be more. They tend not to be as religious, and
they're supposed to be a secular country. As Pakistan is like an Islamic country, and Bangladesh is supposed to be a secular country, but it's not really.
Yeah. So I can see why it may have been well received, because I think it may have been that a lot of people actually thought that way.
But Bangladesh atheists are different from other atheists. They have I don't know, they're braver than your average atheist. Like other atheists, I don't know, the amount of activism and the amount of interest in the subject and amount of, maybe because the consequences are so much. I don't know, you could tell us why you think that is. There seems to be, there's big demand, there's a lot of risk taking. I guess because when your life is influenced by Islam so much more, you're willing to invest more with the cost that comes with activism to try to fix things. Is that what do you think the reason is?
You are right. I remember when our book was on the press, I remember thinking that this might bring so much trouble in my life. But I never thought that I'd get killed. I thought that the book might get banned, or we have to go to court and something might happen. So we were concerned, but we did wanted to take a stand against fundamentalism, religious fundamentalism. So in the book, in the first introduction, we wrote that none of us believe in Allah, God, or anything. We are both atheists, and we are going to explain why we think atheism is the logical way for any human being. So we wanted to take a stand, and people appreciated that. So in 2012, the book was one of the bestsellers in Bangladesh. Yeah, and so it right now it's on its fourth edition.
Holy shit!
So it was, yeah.
In Bangladesh, an atheist book became a bestseller. That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, it continues to be. I mean, this is so you've written, I guess, in a way, the kind of God delusion for Bangladesh. I mean, this is sort of like a seminal text that a lot of people, and this is actually true of, because I know about this book and I've heard about this. A lot of young people in Bangladesh, I mean, there's still people who read it. So, it's actually
knowing what you know now about the risks, and would you still do it?
I'm not sure. I can't answer that question because when I wrote that book, I felt free to express myself, but the situation became much worse. So I don't think if I am in Bangladesh right now, I am going to attempt something like that. I'd be much more careful.
And how did the situation change? Because you felt like Bangladesh was a country that you might get some backlash, but it wasn't. You didn't think that there's going to be a security threat. But was it that it was already like that, but you didn't know, or did it change?
So the last attack, because of this kind of issue, secular atheist issue, was on a university professor named Humayun Azad. That happened in 2004. So we wrote our book published our book in 2011. So it was a quite long time. Nothing like that happened for killing a atheist writer or because killing someone because of atheistic belief or anything. And also one of the reason was Bangladesh Awami League government was in power, so they are also supposedly a secular government. So rather than the Bangladesh Nationalist Party led by Khaleda Zia, who are more aligned with the right-wing politics, Bangladesh Jamaat Islami. Yeah. So because the secular government was in power, we felt safe.
But they betrayed you guys, right? They let you down. They didn't protect you. They blamed it on yourself.
Yeah.
Right? But how many people how many atheist bloggers have died so far from Islamic attacks?
I don't know the exact number, but it's so there are two groups in Bangladesh was active, ISIS and Al-Qaeda both. So Al-Qaeda was the one who was targeting the writers and activists. So I would say they killed at least 18 to 20 people since 2013.
And how many people they had on their list?
I don't know about their
but
list.
You know you were on the list.
So
yeah. So
that was one list published by Ansar Bangla, which I have no way to verify. It was published in Guardian. So they might have a kill list, and I'm not sure how many people.
And
are
we're not talking. The most recent one was when this gunshot. There was 3 days ago.
3 days ago, I think.
But most of the time they're machete attacks. This is unusual, right? And yeah, this is the first time it was a gunshot. That is the thing with machete is they're slow. They're a slow way to die, aren't they? Like they're such a horrible way to die, aren't they? Right?
You're right, and I have awful bad dreams thinking about the attacks. For example, Niloy Neel, he was killed in August 2015. He was in his room, and there were 3 or 4 people with machete, and they just beheaded him and wait for all of his blood to drain from his body in that room. So the whole room was soaked in blood. So
there were pictures of it actually.
Yeah. So I always feel like I could be in that position for sure. I'm just lucky to survive. So they wanted to make an example out of the killing, brutally killing with machete, attacking on the head, on the face. So you get the picture for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they tried to. Well, let's go back to the story. So you published the book, The Philosophy of Disbelief. It was well received at the time, and this is in 2011, right?
Yeah.
So what happens? What happens after that?
So everything was okay. 2011, 2012. Abhijit came to Bangladesh in 2012. He celebrated that book, took many pictures, went to the book fair openly. It was a great time. In 2013, there was an huge protest in February in Dhaka, the Shahbag movement, which was a secular progressive movement, and they were asking for war trial for the war criminals in 1971 who committed crime against humanity. Yeah. So that time the Bangladesh got really polarized, and during that movement, one of my friend Ahmed Rajiv Haidar was killed by Al Qaeda because of his atheistic belief, his writings, and that shook me completely. I remember crying all night when that happened. Me and my wife, we were with Rajiv just the day before, and he was killed the next day. So that was really frightening. And after Rajiv was killed, the whole narrative kind of shifted, that the Islamists, they were saying that this Shahbag movement is an anti-Islamic movement, and they started a separate protest with their own, with millions of madrasa students asking for death of the atheists who are organizing the Shahbag movement.
Right, I'm reading this. It was on April 6th in 2013. I remember when this happened, and there was a report in the Independent, and we'll put a link in the description. I've made a note of it here. There were actually hundreds of thousands of protesters that came out yelling, "Hang!"
So they were killing the atheists, and so let me just get this straight, because I was answering one of the people in the live chat. They're killing atheists, and then you have massive protests, not to protect the atheists, not to save the atheists from these people that are just writing and doing nothing else other than fucking writing. Okay, they are writing. Okay, the people come out in masses asking the government to hang you guys.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
And also, like when Rajiv was killed, from the movement, the Shahbag movement, they had a huge janaza of him, saying that he didn't write any of those things.
Yeah.
So we were left completely alone in 2013 after the Shahbag movement.
Well, I mean,
so
there write any of the atheist material? Well, I mean, it's kind of, you can't blame the guy, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, of course you can't. Yeah, it's so at this point there were some.
But are you thinking like he left you guys alone, like abandoned you guys?
No, I was saying that the narrative shifted. One was asking for our hanging hours, and many of our friends was saying that Rajiv did not write those things, which in a way means that it is okay to kill him if he wrote that.
So
that's
why are these people?
It's like, he never said any of that stuff.
What are these people like? What is it like? What are you guys like? Why do you think people think that you guys are deserving of hacking? Given that you're just not the only thing you're doing is like, hey everyone, here's how we think. Like, what makes you think there's a whole masses of people out there that see that and like, yeah, okay, you should hang those people. What's the logic? What the quote unquote logic is behind that?
I think it came from our childhood indoctrination through Islamic traditions.
Is there anything culture, other than Islam that Islamic ideology that is responsible for this kind of thinking?
Maybe the economy, maybe they have mental problems, but one of the major driving force one of the driving force is that in Islam I personally learned that if you leave Islam, it is okay to kill you.
What would you tell to people that this is a Bangladeshi issue, this has nothing to do with Islam, this is a poverty issue, don't blame Islam on this? What would you say to that?
I would say Islam is one of the main reason people committed crime against us. For sure, it was the main reason. There might be other driving force, for sure. But the person who killed Niloy, he killed him because he thought that this will take him to the heaven, right? And many people, for example, you guys both know a hadith of Muhammad. I'm just trying to rephrase it. So if you see something bad happens, you should act, like do something to prevent it. And the last thing you can do is just hate it or think is wrong in your mind. So many people thinks atheist in that way. That
there's more specific hadith specifically as telling you that there are three groups of people that you should be killing, and one of them are the people that leave Islam, right? And it mentions that, it mentions that many times in the hadith, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, there's no confusion on it. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So the 2013 protests at this point, and were there already some? I think there were some bloggers who were already in jail at the time, and they were saying that they should be hanged, like these hundreds of thousands of.
Yeah, so after that hanging protest, Bangladesh government wanted to do something. So there came a list of people who are atheists, which was submitted by a Islamic group to the Bangladeshi Home Minister. So there was like 57 people on that list. So Bangladesh government arrested 4
on what charges? Bloggers. It's a secular government. What was the crime?
The crime was hurting religious sentiment.
Well, then you should arrest every fucking Muslim out there with the Quran, because it's hurting Christian and Jewish religious sentiments. What the fuck? Oh my god.
Yeah. Armin, your voice is coming out really loud and a little crackly. So see if you can turn down your mic volume a little bit. Maybe that's what it was. But go ahead.
Yeah. So when that list came out, I just I got a job in Germany. So I just left with my wife to Germany, thinking that I don't want to go to the jail or anything. I don't want to face any kind of trouble. So I just left to Germany in 2013 April. So after that, the 4 bloggers were arrested, and there was Abhijit tried to organize protests in Bangladesh, also in other countries with IHEU, CFI, and it did gain a lot of international attention that bloggers has been arrested in Bangladesh. Right. So they were ultimately released on bail. And thinking that everything was okay, I came back to Bangladesh after 6 months in October 2013. So everything was good and all good in 2014. In 2015, in January, the attack on Charlie Hebdo happened, which really shook me. And also, I in my personal life, I had an accident in 2014. I lost my younger brother. So anyway, I was in a really bad situation in in the beginning of 2015. But I was working with Avijit Roy to write a book on evolution, to answer like a frequently asked question on evolution. We have a database in Mukto-Mona where we compile all the questions people have on evolution, and we provided answer to those questions. So we wanted to make a book on it, so that it can reach more people.
What's your motivation behind all this?
I don't really have any motivation. I think I like to write. I don't like to do activism. So,
but isn't your writing kind of activism?
It is, of course. It became activism, and the topics I choose also aligned with secular activism, atheism. But motivation, I'm not going to heavens for doing this. I'm not getting paid for doing this. So it's just something I like to do for maybe. Yeah. So yeah, it's not like I feel like a prophet of changing everything. I just feel like I don't believe in God, and it solved many of my problem and let me live my life in a very efficient, in a very happy way. And I just wanted to share that feelings with everyone, so that they don't destroy or their only life, only precious life. So that's
a beautiful answer. I get asked that a lot too, and I never really know what to say. But I think you summed it up
you
right
just
there.
care about your fellow human beings. That's why you're doing it.
Yeah, you can say that.
A lot of people. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
So,
how's my audio?
Go on.
Is it better?
Huh?
I reduced it.
It's better. Better.
A lot of people usually say, "Oh, if you left Islam, then why are you talking about Islam? Just leave it. Go live your life. Why are you so obsessed with Islam?" What would you say to that?
That's the same question, because Islam is not only followed by people personally. It's an complete way of life. You know that, right? It deals with how you live in society. It deals with how you live in a political system, how you run your country, how you behave, and everything is in some way is influenced by religion, by Islam, and I felt like it caused so many problems, and it's very poisonous, and it's the devil, actual devil, metaphorically, for sure. So that's why, and it can drive people to do bad things, and I just wanted to let people think about it and question themselves and just search for answer. Just they don't have to believe me. They just should look out for answer. Be open-minded.
I usually tell people that, actually, I have to give credit to somebody on Twitter, which I don't know who it was, but there was a good answer that I usually use that to answer people. Is that it's kind of like saying. It's kind of like saying, "Oh, you recovered from addiction. Why can't you just go live your addiction-free life? Why do you have to help other people recover from addiction as well?" Like, it's as ridiculous as asking that question. But sorry, Ali, go on.
No, I was saying that when I saw the crowds at 2013 protests that you're talking about, and I was astounded, because I had never, like, these are literally hundreds of thousands of people in the streets just protesting and asking for the deaths of these. And I couldn't help thinking, I'm like, well, in a way, even though it's horrible, maybe it's lucky that these 4 bloggers are actually in jail. They're protected from this mob, because if they weren't in jail, they would have gotten to them. They would have just destroyed them. So and I was looking, and then a phrase that Avijit used for faith, he called it a virus. He used to say that it's a virus of faith. And, you're talking about indoctrination. You're talking about how contagious it is and how it spreads. And, you see those crowds and you can't help but think that those are Avijit's words coming to life.
It's like a zombie, like a spread of like a disease that produces zombies. Like it
is. I mean, you have these bloodthirsty, like hundreds of thousands of people just going asking for the deaths of writers, just people who sit there and write words. I mean, when we look at the history of Muhammad smashed the idols of the Quraysh. Like, he was much, much more aggressive in his blasphemy against the status quo and the religion of the time. Right. And here we have just writers who are sitting at laptops writing books, and that is such a huge threat to them that it just brings out this just murderous bloodlust, and that's what it is. It's just a virus. So, but anyway, let's continue with you returned to Bangladesh.
What? You returned to Bangladesh? I missed that part. Why would you return to Bangladesh?
Sorry, this is so interesting.
Why would you do that? Why would you return to Bangladesh?
It was in 2013, so the bloggers were freed, and that I didn't feel like there is a threat on me, like getting killed or anything. So I feel like I'm a much polite atheist than Rajiv.
Like, they care. There's no hadith. There's no hadith that say kill the people that leave Islam unless they're polite. Then
so
they don't give a shit about how polite you are. This is why I'm not polite, because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Absolutely, I 100% agree with you. It doesn't matter, but I just give myself some boost that we can go back in 2013.
No, I'm like you too. I'm more polite. It's just how I am. We all are who we are, and I think the way that Armin does things obviously has a massive impact. I mean, you can tell by all of his work, and the way I think all of us have a part to play. But go ahead. So you returned in 2013.
Yeah. So in 2014, Abhijit actually published the Virus of the Faith book, and it was like that actually put him on the spotlight of saying Islamic religion or religion a virus, and he started getting threats on.
Did he know that's going to happen? Do you think he knew?
Yeah, I'm not sure why he wasn't serious, but there was threat on him saying that if you ever come to Bangladesh, we are going to kill you.
And he still published a book like this.
Yeah. And he also visited Bangladesh in 2000.
He went there to the book fair in Dhaka where he was killed. Yeah.
Anybody ever asked him if he was afraid and why he's doing this?
I also think he didn't knew about the whole he didn't have a quite grasp of the whole situation. He might also think, for example, he was killed on Thursday, so I was in a meeting with him in his home on Tuesday, and I told him that you have to be really, really careful moving out of this, moving around the city, going to the book fair. And he said, "Raihan, don't worry, I'm just a writer. No one's going to kill me." So that could be the motivation he also had, that he's just a writer. He's not so much outspoken that he won't have to deal with something like that. So he came with his wife, and let me tell you how they knew about when that Abhijit came to Bangladesh. It was a big question for me too. So they captured two of the killer, and they say that.
No, it's first tell us about what happened to him before you talk about the killers. Yeah.
Okay. So on February 26th, 2015, he went to the book fair. He had met with some friends, met with his publishers, had something to eat, and they were going back to the place they were staying in Dhaka. And while they was walking, and there was like thousands of people there, literally. So there was a dark corner of a road, and 2 or 3 guys, they just started hacking him on his head
with machetes.
Also, with machetes, yes. Also, when his wife went for rescue, they attacked her as well.
Oh, is this on the head? When she tried to stop them, and her fingers got cut? Is this? Oh, yeah. Yes. So she went in front of them, and she was trying to stop them with her hand. And the machetes cut. She got hit in the head a few times. And a few of her fingers got cut off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So everyone, there was police presence. So it happened in front of everyone. So I wasn't with Abhijit that night. So one of my friends, they called me like half an hour later that they suspect that Avijit and Bonya was attacked in the book fair, and within like 10 minutes it was all the news channels, and it just everywhere. So I go to the Dhaka Medical College where they took Avijit and Bonya. I saw Bonya, that I saw that she's still alive, and I saw the dead body of Avijit Roy. He lost so much blood, and part of his brain was missing. So he died that night. He didn't survive the attack. So it just happened.
I remember seeing a picture, and tell me if this is the same situation of her wife in the street with him on the ground in a pool of blood, and she's like screaming, like standing and screaming. There was a picture of that I saw. at the crowd, and there was.
It was circulated quite a bit. Yeah, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. So you said that after that they talked to his killers and they asked him how they found out that he was in Bangladesh.
Yeah, it was reported on the Bangladeshi media that from their statement to the court that they said that Ansar Bangla had a guard in front of Abhijit's dad's home for over a year.
Uh-huh.
So there were people in front of Abhijit's dad's home in Dhaka every day, just monitoring if Abhijit's come.
Uh-huh.
So that much dedication they had, and that because Abhijit was like the face of the atheist movement in Bangladesh, because he was creating so much content, so much writing. He was organizing so many people together, which we still miss these 3 years, that no one can take that position Abhijit had. He talked with Ali, he talked with CFI, he was connected with everyone. So he was like the powerhouse of the atheist secular movement. So they knew about it and they wanted to kill him.
So they waited for his, they were monitoring the outside of his father's house for a year. And this is a kind of, I mean, you were telling me earlier that, before when we spoke, that that you have threats. You have people who threaten you.
I'm going to show the picture to our audience, to our patrons that are live right now. I know people later are not going to see. Is that okay if I show that picture? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, it's a public picture. There's you said that when there are people who threaten you and you get the threats, but then you when Al-Qaeda, when these kinds of groups want to kill you, they don't threaten, they don't warn, they just come and they get you. And then that's how they got Avijit too, right? I mean, it's not something that he was expecting at all, but they were very prepared.
Yeah, for sure. The Al-Qaeda, the Charlie Hebdo attack was done by Al-Qaeda. So they have a different modus operandi than ISIS, right? ISIS just kill people of being non-Muslim or something. But Al-Qaeda, they think themselves as a popular movement. So their target, they make the target list in a way so that they can have the maximum impact on the society.
Sorry, we're looking at the picture in the live chat right now. This the wife that she's standing, her name is Rafia, right? Rafia, is that? And she's now speaking. I saw her in London at the Secular conference, right? And she's now speaking. She's picking up where he left off. Like, she's not silent about it. She lost a couple of fingers. She has like scars on her head, but now she continued his work, and she's going around and speaking at conferences, which is very brave of her to continue that work, which is amazing. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to remove this picture.
She is still very active, and recently, just 3 days ago, she had gave a TEDx talk in edX, and we have a video of her. She also gave 2016 Voltaire lecture organized by British Humanist Association. She went to UN panels. She helped a lot of people reallocating. Helped so many people to make sure they're safe in Bangladesh. So she is very, very active still. Yeah. After all this.
Sorry, I keep interrupting. Go on.
So Avijit. So after Avijit was killed, then I remember this was happening pretty much every month, every couple of weeks, and it was very soon after that Washiqur Rahman was killed as well. And did you know him at all, or?
I didn't know him personally, but he was on my Facebook friend list. And in 2014, when Abhijit wrote The Virus of the Faith, he mentioned the name of Washiqur Rahman Babu on the book, saying that they participated in the protest of when the Bangladesh government arrested those bloggers. So he was also also like known to the community, and he was also a very good writer, has a great sense of humor. I would encourage people to just Google Washiqur Rahman, and they will find some of his quotation on IHEU website. It's translated to English, and you will realize that how sarcastic he was. But he was not popular like Avijit. So he was just known to the community. So after they killed Abhijit, there was a good shake-up in Bangladesh. There was many protests of condemning the murder. So what Al Qaeda did after that, they killed Washiqur Rahman Babu, just for the sake of we are not only killing the famous one, we are going to kill everyone who writes against Islam, or who writes anything that mocks Muhammad or make fun of Islamic faith or anything. So that's when they kill Washiqur Rahman Babu in March 30th.
Yeah. And so, and there were, again, you talked about Niloy Neel and how brutally he was killed. And then again, Ananta. And then you said at the time that, and I read a news report where you said that you knew it was your turn. There was a list that came out. And this was from the Ansarullah Bangla Team that had your name on it. And this is around the time that, I guess that you realized that you had to leave. When they killed Abhijit, I decided that it's not safe for me to stay here, because almost all the newspaper mentioned our book and wrote my name as well. So I just immediately stopped going to the university. I started working from home, and then I changed my home in 10-15 days and started living to my friend's home. So I was very careful, and I was very lucky as well, because there was a biomedical engineering conference in Canada where my supervisor, he was supposed to attend. So I told him that I don't feel safe here anymore, and can I go somewhere? And he said, just let's go to Canada. I take you to Canada and just stay there for some time. So I applied for Canadian visa. And during that time, I was talking with the Bob Churchill from IHU, some CFI people, Michael Didora, thinking that I need to reallocate and go somewhere. I didn't have my job in Germany that time, which was supposed to start back in 2016. So I need a year to be somewhere. So, but I just want to say the IHEU and Michael Didora, both of these guys are amazing. The kind of help that they've provided, and Michael Didora also used to work with the CFI before, and they've helped so many people in these positions to be able to get out of those positions.
Yeah, one of the fascinating thing both Michael and Bob did to me was keeping constant contact of what is happening, caring so much. We never met, but caring so much for people who are in danger, and trying to help as much as possible.
This is not just Al Qaeda. There's a lot of mob support on the ground, that are not, that maybe it seems like, because people keep saying extremist mob, it's not always Al Qaeda, is it? Because
the attacks on the secular bloggers were coordinated by Al Qaeda's branch Ansarullah Bangla. They have people to do this kind of heinous acts. So it was not a mob attack like we saw in case of Marshall in Pakistan.
Yeah,
it depends. Okay. Yeah, for sure.
So. Yeah. So you then you were able to leave to Canada, and you had family at this time as well, or?
No, my wife was pregnant, so I wasn't able to because I was going to a conference. I didn't want to raise any question from the
immigration. Yeah,
immigration.
Right.
Yeah. So I just came with my professor to Canada, and then I applied. My wife applied for her visa, and she got her visa and came to Canada.
So you came to Canada for this conference, and then once you were here, I mean, this is something you were all over the press. I remember, I was reading about you in as early as 2016, and this is around the time that you also won the PEN Canada Award, the Ken Filkow Prize for courage in opposing restraint on freedom of expression and ideas. How did that happen? Did you come here and did you continue your writing and your activism? Did you speak more? Did you get a lot of press?
So about press and publicly speaking, I didn't do it when I came here in 2015 June, and at least until so I gave an interview to Al Jazeera I think in August, July August time, but I didn't spoke openly that I left Bangladesh or I'm here in Canada, because I again thought that I will go back. I had a 1.5 year visa to stay here, so I thought that if everything cools down, I'll again go back.
Please don't.
So I just I don't think I'm going to do that right now.
Or ever,
for sure.
maybe.
Yeah. Canada is much better than Bangladesh. Yeah, I agree. So for sure, I love to live here as long as I can.
And you will be and people can read your material from Bangladesh if you write them in Canada as well, right? You could just keep writing here and sending it to Bangladesh, right? So you're more helpful
I think
to them
he still
alive.
does that, right? Yeah.
So after we got our refugee status in 2015 November. So after we got the refugee status, the Global Mail they published an article of about everything. So from there, the media started picking up, and I never stopped talking, but I lost so many people. And I also, as I said, I also lost my brother. So I try my best to do the activism as much as I can. For sure. But again, it's not like something. It's not. I wanted to live in peace, enjoy my life, but that is my social responsibility, and I do as much as I can.
Wait, what the fuck? So
I want to share.
This is so amazing. You want to live your life in peace, but you feel that you have a social responsibility to do these things, and that's why you do it, even though you would rather not have all this stuff coming at you. You did it because you think you had a social responsibility.
Yeah, as I said, I just wanted people to feel happy for their life and enjoy all the capabilities
you're
they
an amazing person. You're awesome.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That it really is. I've got to say, anyway. We'll get to this part in a bit, but I want to relate something that that in the beginning of 2015, in January, you had the Charlie Hebdo attack, and then that was around just a few days after that they flogged Raif Badawi. Right, Raif Badawi's a very close friend of mine, and he's and he stays in prison. He's still imprisoned in Saudi Arabia, and they whipped him 50 times. Then Avijit was killed a month after that, and I remember after that having this conversation, because my wife and I were planning to have a baby, and we were seeing this, and this is actually two people that I'd corresponded with. Avijit I'd corresponded with online, and I knew Raif very well. My wife knows Raif very well, and Raif also had gotten the PEN Canada Award at the time that Lishba, my wife, had accepted on his behalf, and we were just wondering, is it worth it? We were looking at this, and we were talking about, should we continue doing this? I mean, we can just have a family, we can just live in peace and just be happy and do what we're doing, just in a way that, like what you were saying. And then I thought, okay, well, we're in Canada, we are privileged, we can speak, and whereas for doing exactly what we do, Raif is in prison. His 3 kids haven't seen him now for 6 years and counting. you have lost your friends, you have lost your colleagues. And one thing that we haven't mentioned here on the air is that out of the two publishers, right, that published your book, both of them were attacked as well, and one of them was killed, your publisher, right? So it wasn't just you and Avijit, but even people around you. And all of these people are making these immense sacrifices, and we're sitting here thinking, well, let's just let the attackers have what they want, and so that sentiment of that ambiguity that we had didn't really last more than just a few minutes, and it made us actually it made us double down and made us go even further along. So I think that it was even that all of the stuff that you talked about was we were inspired. I mean, we were depressed, and again, it was very close to home, so it hurt. It actually hurt us as well, even though it's strange because I didn't even know you at the time. I had never met Avijit, but it was just so personal, and but it made us double down. It made us think that you and your friends and your colleagues and all of the work that you did inspired us to become even more assertive, and that made us realize how that social responsibility that you're talking about. So when you felt that you should know that it wasn't just you. You inspired. I
have a question from the live chat from Mars. I think he or she. Okay, sorry. The names on the live chat doesn't match the names on Facebook. I can't remember. Mars is asking have you had interactions with members of a more liberal Islamic community in Canada, and have you discussed your experience with them? I've argued religious apologetics with Christians before, but with Islamic fundamentalists being more prevalent, I'm surprised that they can brush aside experience such as yours so dismissively. And Mars just clarified it's a he. Okay. So basically, I think the question is like, I'm actually want to add to that question. Do you talk to liberal Islamic communities, and also do you come in touch with social justice warriors or the far left? How do you hear what they have to say about Islam, and what are your thoughts on both of these communities?
Yes, I do interact with people, people, Bangladeshi liberal Muslims. For example, I studied in Islamic University, so right. I have a big community here, friends here living here, who are liberal Muslims, and I also have secular Muslims who don't promote their Muslim identity, but they believe in Allah. So there are many kinds of people from Bangladeshi community lives here. I was really astonished. I remember I came here June 4th in 2015. So just 2 days after, I went to a bookshop. There is a Bangla bookshop in Toronto, in Danforth area. I went there and I saw my book there.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
So you can see that people here are also there is many people who are very secular. Maybe they follow Islam or not. And about the speaking with other groups, I remember talking with Ambassador Andrew Bennett. He was the ambassador of Office of Religious Freedom. Which the office is dissolved now. It was a Harper government office to promote religious freedom, which was basically Christian freedom. Anyway, so So I told him my experience and how I was attacked by Islamist, by extremist, and he realized it and he understood our situation. He also helped us relocating bloggers from other parts of the world. I also talked with the Global Affairs. The ministry, so they had organized a seminar called "The Rise of the Nuns," because in Canada we are the second largest religion, if you call atheism.
The nuns is NONES, everyone, not NUNS.
I think. Hey, I would. That would be interesting. The Rise of the Nuns. They should make a movie about that. But I think Mars is asking more about people, both Muslim, Abrahamic religious people, that, and also non-Muslims, leftist non-Muslims in the West. That's what I'm asking. That I think what he's referring to is people that make excuses for Islam, or use terms like Islamophobia, or
it's a religion of peace, or this like has nothing to do with Islam. A lot of Westerners that
but first of all, to respond to Mars a little bit, as you mentioned, liberal Muslims also exist in Bangladesh as well. So you already met them over there. But when they come to you here, or when you hear them here and they tell you that Islam is a religion of peace, or don't criticize Islam, is Islamophobia, have you come across that? And have you ever responded to any of that, or have you thought about responding to any of that? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, yeah, I got the question. Sorry, I was like trying to tell you how important I am, citing all those.
No, well, you are. No, sorry.
No. All right.
See, there's that infectious Raihan laugh. One thing I gotta say about Raihan is, like, when we hung out in person, this guy just laughs, and he's got this laugh that is that lights up a room, and it's amazing, like the stuff that you've been through. It's just, you come here, you just know how to laugh, and you know how to enjoy it. It's just actually, that's also very inspiring. Anyway, I'm going to stop embarrassing you and go ahead. When people say,
I got your point that. So, for example, people when we wrote in Bangla, people told us that we are anti-Muslim or anti-Islamist or something. Here as well. Like when we write in Bangla, when they kill us that we are not only atheists, because we are anti-Islamist and we are hurting Muslims, so that's why they are killing us. And here, of course, I totally hate the idea of the word Islamophobia, because it was coined by Muslim Brotherhood, which are, I feel like, same organization like Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
And and there is no substance on this Islam in this word. For example, if I saw a Muslims with a machete saying Allahu Akbar running around, I will definitely be scared of what is happening. What is happening here? But I don't get scared like if I see Ali on the road, our atheist Muslim. So. anyway, but I remember people trying to say those things to me.
Here, people try to say that to you. Yeah, in Canada.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Islamophobia in Canada. I'm not surprised, because there was a motion of preventing Islamophobia by Saga MP thing. So. Yeah, M113. Yeah, so it is a very popular term these days that Islam is a religion of peace. Islam, we shouldn't be Islamophobe. But when I talk about my experience, people actually can see it by like evidence of what religion or any organized faith, like Islam, like Christianity before, can do to atrocities they can do. So when I show the examples, they kind of have nothing to say to my face. But for example, if a white person here in Canada started talking about how bad Islam is, in that case, the reaction would be much worse than the reaction I have. Yeah, because sure.
Basically, you said if a white person, right?
Yeah. I hope I didn't.
No. Actually, you're on point. You're on point because. But that's weird because basically you have experienced something and you're saying something and people don't dare come and call you an Islamophobe because you're like, if somebody dares in, they should like seriously shut the fuck up, right? Because you've been through so much for somebody to come dare call you an Islamophobe, right? But then.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that Islam is a religion of peace.
Shut the fuck up. Like seriously, like say that to my face, right? But then if somebody else, like a white guy, comes and says that because they don't have the same experience, they get to attack that guy as much as possible. But the thing is that even though factually they're saying exactly the same as what you're saying, right? So this is why people don't actually care about whether it's true or not. They look at the identity of the person saying it rather than actually evaluating if it's true.
You are 100% right. And for those people, I would say to read the Quran. And in Quran, almost like 62% of time, it talks about how to deal with non-Muslims. So they can read it by themselves.
Isn't kafir one of the most repeated words in the Quran, right? It's like obsessed with us. They're obsessed with us. Yeah,
it's been said in multiples of 19. Remember, kafir has been written. Yeah, okay. But one other thing in your story actually is that because we've talked about Avijit, we've talked about your publishers, we've talked about the threats that you've gotten and how you had to pretty much escape to Canada, but after you left Bangladesh, because at the time you said you were going to be next, you were on the list, that Al-Qaeda list. And then after you left, there was an attempt, right?
They didn't know that you've left.
But yeah, go ahead. Tell us about that.
So about the list first. So the list was published when I was here in Canada. So after I did the Al Jazeera interview, they put I told them that not to say anything where I am. I shot the video in front of a white wall, but I think they didn't get the whole message, and they said that I'm talking from Toronto, Canada. So after that, there was a list of people living abroad, atheist people. So my name was on that list, but I'm already here in Canada. And when they killed my publisher Faisal Dipan, the Al-Qaeda branch Ansarullah Bangla, they make a statement like
your publisher got killed because of the books he published.
I would say that he got killed because of me. I am, of course, one of the reason. And he also published Avijit's Virus of the Faith, also the Philosophy of Disbelief. So he published the recent edition of both of those books. So that was the reason to get him killed. So on that statement, they said that they wanted to kill me. My name was on that statement 3 times, and I already fled away, scaring the Mujahid. Got scared from the Mujahid, and I got fled away. So that's how I knew that they made an attempt. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so there's just so much here. Well, what do you now you're here? So we talked about, we brought up the idea of sort of some of the leftist Westerners talking about Islamophobia and how you feel about that. You made that abundantly clear, and we are in complete agreement with you. And what about this rise of the far right elements? Now you have people who are talking about like Trump and alt-right people, far right people talking about Muslim bans and talking about the refugees from Muslim countries and how Islam is often, many of them are Christians themselves. They're very religious Christians, but they have, that they are actually bigoted against all Muslims. They kind of paint them all with the same brush. How do you feel about that on the other end?
I think Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, these kind of people are same as people from Al-Qaeda. So maybe they have different talking points, but inherently they don't believe in human rights. They don't believe in freedom. They promote propaganda. They're the worst. They're just like those fundamentalist group. I think they're also like it's very bad for our society what is happening in US with this Trump's nationalistic behavior and the way he's dividing the country. Their steps to ban people from coming into United States, like it's their fucking land or they fucking own it or something. So Trump himself is of course came from immigrant family. So it's just they are a group of cult, and they don't like anyone who doesn't belong to that cult, and they just wanted to like promote hate. I don't know why. Of course, they have this reason why they do that. They wanted to marginalize those people. They wanted to vilify those people. They wanted to discredit those people. So exactly same thing what happened in Fox News or the Fox channels, the way they represent reality in a twisted way. The same happens in the like, for example, the Facebook pages run by this Islamic community. They also have the same message. For example, Saudi Arabia will never take a Christian refugee, right? And
or any refugee,
America,
Saudi
or any kind
of doesn't think Muslim
for that matter.
Yeah. But let's say another example would be Saudi Arabia. For instance, Jews are not allowed in Saudi Arabia. Jews they were just
they don't Jewish. Take but those are travelers, just normal travelers. But refugees, they're not very good at taking anybody, including Muslims, including Sunni Muslims.
Yeah, but anyway, your point is completely valid. Go ahead.
So of course, my dislike is kind of same for both of these peoples, because they actually hate individual freedom and freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of hand, mind, everything. It's Al-Qaeda in US. You can say like those right-wingers, nationalist group. Yeah.
I'll tell you the number one response you'll get whenever I say the same kind of thing. I when I say that, I just don't understand the difference between, some of the tribalism and the nationalistic, the jingoism and the supremacy, our tribe is superior. These are all things, and they both deny it. They say, no, that's not what we're doing. They try to add nuances. But whenever I make that comparison, the defenders always come and say, well, at least, these people here, the far right, they're not killing people. They're not chopping their heads off. And I was telling them, like, that's a very low bar. Your standard's really that low. I mean, that's not what makes someone good. But their rhetoric, it is very similar. And I feel like all of us, especially people in the ex-Muslim community, tend to be caught in the middle, because on the one hand, you have these Islamic fascists, right? That's super religious, Quran adherent, Hadith adherent, super pious, fundamentalist Muslims, and they're coming, that we're targets of them. And then on the other hand, you have this other group that just looks at us as Muslim. I mean, you wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. Armin wouldn't be here. If, Sarah Haider wouldn't be here. Mohammed Sayed wouldn't be here. None of these, Aryan Hirsi Ali, Mariam Namazi.
Can I respond to that, though? I might have like a counterpoint.
Yes. Yeah.
It's true that that's a low barrier, and bigots and racists and whatever, they are, their ideology is shit, right? But at the same time, these Islam is a bigger problem right now. Way bigger problem.
Well,
I mean, I'm not saying they're not a problem. I'm just saying Islam is a bigger problem. If you were thinking about if you go back in history and you look at by the beginning of World War II, maybe those kind of people would be a bigger issue right now. But now they're not. Now they're just annoying.
Yeah, I think that they're different kinds of problems.
I'm not saying they're not a problem. I'm just saying they're.
It is. I agree that it's
way
a bigger problem worldwide. Obviously, what's happening around the world, right, with Islam and Islamic ideology and all the stuff with the 52 Muslim majority countries. It's I mean,
where are the Nazis that are hacking people to death right now? I don't see any of them, right? I'm not saying that means they're good people. Obviously, there's fucking, their ideology is shit, right? But I'm just saying that right now, it's not like, how Trump and West said we have bad people on both sides, and we all point at Trump and like, what the fuck are you talking about? One side is way worse than the other. This is kind of the same situation. Mm-hmm. We could say.
No, I don't think it's the same situation as that. I think it's a little different. I think because what we're talking about right now is we're talking about rhetorically. Right, so I look at these, the deaths and all of that. I mean, this is something. I don't think that's the worst of it. Those are just the branches. But when you talk about the rhetoric, and if you look at even if you look at the damage, right? If you look at science education, for instance, denial of science, right, or denial of medical science, that is going to destroy a future generation. It'll destroy progress. That is a harm of a completely another kind that is, to me, in some ways, depending on the context, it can't be much worse because slowing down progress is also being done on a much massive scale on Islamic country by Muslims. Right. It's being done. I'm not denying that it's a much worse problem, but I think
that's all I'm saying. I'm just saying it's a much. I'm just saying rhetoric, both bullshit, both nonsense, both don't make sense.
Right.
But when it comes to harm. And when it comes to the degree of influence, when it comes to people that are being harmed by which ideology, right now Islam takes the cake by a wide margin.
It takes a cake margin. Right. It takes a because, and the reason it does is I think that there's no checks and balances on it, and that's what the biggest problem is.
It's just a better meme, though. Look at how it's a more powerful meme. It's to its credit.
It is it's a religion. It's a religion, right? But what I'm saying is that if a lot of these checks and balances were taken away from the far right, like they were in World War II. You got to remember that, Hitler started out, he was also a joke. When in 1940, before he'd killed anybody else, I mean, nobody really took him seriously. People say he's just a demagogue. There were articles written about him that, he just uses anti-Semitism as a way to rally up his base. I mean, that was actually written in the New York Times about him. And that's before he did these things. And when those checks and balances were lifted, things do go just nuts. And this is the problem. So the reason that the rhetoric is less damaging on the far right now, or some of this demagogic populism, is because the checks and balances in Western societies, thankfully, are much more in place, and they're in place because of the Western Enlightenment and because of values like secularism and separation of church and state and separation of powers in the government, the different branches of government. Yeah. What
do you think?
So, Raihan, we're going to ask you to solve this huge issue.
I think I do believe Islam is a major problem for motivating people to do awful stuff. Most likely the Sunnis are one of the main vicious group in Islamic community. But there are Islamic communities like Ahmadiyya Muslims, Qadianis, who are being prosecuted by the Muslims.
Yeah, Muslims are the number one victim of Islam.
Yes, so of course, you're 100% right. So it is a major problem, but I also like to reiterate the point Ali made that for example, if Trump gets to pick another 3 or 4 Supreme Court nominee in the US, that will have a huge lasting impact in that society, that the huge impact on freedom of people, huge impact on gay rights, transgender rights. And Islam, they don't have that much of power in right now in Western countries. They might contribute to some of the rhetorics. They might have some attacks, but the problem for the rise of right wing is also one of the major problem of like dividing us and
but the rise of the right wing is also because of Islam. So you have to give credit to Islam for that as well.
Yes, they realize that if ISIS can just come to Paris and shoot people, why not we just do something? We should be able to do that as well, right? So yeah, that's why I wanted to say that they both are kind of the same people, but their talking point.
Here's the thing: I acknowledge the fact that yes, if Trump does this, transgender people are going to have a tough time. Maybe this, maybe that. Free speech is going to, but it's never going to be a situation where Christians are going to pick up machetes and start like in the US, and start chopping off gay people or atheists in the United States. That's, like that was, anything could happen. Okay. But that's not going to happen probably.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. So I wrote my book about, on that topic. I wrote that Islam is a teenage religion. So kind of much angrier than the old Christianity or Judaism, and maybe when it gets old, it will be as peaceful as free.
That's a good way to put it. It is. It's a teenage. It's going through adolescence. But I
think the only way Islam could become common when it's a dying religion. I don't want it to be a growing adult religion. Yeah,
that's what it is. A dying. The older you get, the closer you are to dying.
No, but I'm just saying I don't give credit to Christianity for growing and becoming more mature. I'm saying Christianity is less of an issue because it's dying. That's why it's
it's in the throes of. It's just towards it. The future generations, like you were talking about how you spoke to that ambassador Raihan. And you were talking about the rise of the nuns, right? So it's not just Christianity. A lot of these religions are dying, and we have even
Islam is not dying, unfortunately. We have to change the tides because
Islam's dying. So the thing is that the kind of things that are happening in the Muslim world among the youth, right? It's very, very hard to gauge, but there are more people and I've brought this example many times. We talk about it here, and this is one of the reasons this is called the Muslim Enlightenment. The Secular Jihadists for Muslim Enlightenment is that in just a few decades, there's been a lot of. When you look at polls coming out from Muslim majority countries, when you look at the correspondence we've had, the fact that so many atheists there are not even anonymous anymore, right? That it's a very small bit of progress, but when you look at the internet and how many people are organizing,
it's not happening enough. It's happening. It's growing, but it's not happening enough. And in fact, I'm going to use this opportunity to tell people that, guys, this is not. I see some trends happening. Yes, atheists are growing, activism is growing, but Islam is growing faster. And we really need to move this to an offensive. We are playing defense. A lot of Westerners that are afraid of Islam, what they look at is like, oh, Islam is dangerous. Don't bring it in our country. This thing is growing so fucking fast. It doesn't really matter how many, even countries that are getting away with this by having tougher border restrictions. This thing is taking over our fucking planet. Okay. Like you could have your boat and think like it's not good. The disease is not going to spread to you. This thing is dangerous, and we can't just play defense. We can't be like, hey, let's just have borders and it's not in my country. It's not Islam versus the West.
Borders are not going to keep out the internet.
It's not Islam versus the West. This is Islam versus our fucking planet, okay? And we need to start fighting on behalf of our planet instead of fighting on behalf of our countries. And to do that is instead of playing defense, we need to play offense, okay? And we need to go to Islamic countries and we need to spread our views, and we need to reach out. What Ali is saying is that with the internet, we have access to the young people in Islamic countries. The problem is, so do they. Okay, they are playing the internet game as well. So they are way better funded than us. Okay, and they have way more assets online than we have, and they're paying. They have oil money behind this shit. Okay, we need to start translating. This is why, and this is what I was going to use this opportunity to ask for people to come help us. Okay, because this is why we have. If you go on our Patreon, we're saying once we get 500 patrons, we're going to start translating every single Secular Jihadist episode, because even though we're in fucking only English, we're still getting downloads in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, everywhere. In Indonesia, we're getting downloads. In Egypt is one of the high ones. But imagine if we translated these podcasts to Arabic, to Urdu, to Farsi, to Indonesian. Then we are really playing this offense game. Like the best defense against this disease is a good offense. If they're coming for our countries, we have to go for their countries. We have to solve this problem at home. We can't just sit here and hope that this is our politician. Our politicians, yeah.
Oh no, I don't think it's a matter of sitting in hope. A lot of the reason that all of this stuff has happened, even the parts of the progress that I'm talking about, the reason it's happened is because people went on the offensive. People who, and Raihan, I mean, you know this, when you're in a society where you can't speak freely, you can't write freely, and you're under threat of death all the time, you don't have the luxury and you don't have the choice to sit and play defense and have respectful conversations with people. You have to go out, you have to say what you think, and you have to be open about it. And this is why, and so I think that what you're saying, Armin, it's completely in line with that. It's because of the whatever progress I'm talking about, even if it's tiny baby step compared to what we're up against in the last 30 years, whatever's happened has happened because there were people like Salman Rushdie.
I agree that we're making progress, but they're making progress faster. They're having more babies, and they are producing way more Islam.
So I think that having more babies thing, you gotta remember every ex-Muslim out there was,
but for every ex-Muslim they're having 5 more babies that is not going to become ex-Muslim. The thing is that they're also making like Islamic cartoons and all that shit, right? They have more production value than we have. Okay, they're making. Well, they also have TV series on the Quran. They're like people. These kids grow up and they want a hero, and they have made Muhammad cool now. Okay, they know how to brainwash. Okay, we need. Rehan, we are reached from 5 kids they make. We're reaching 1 of them. We need to reach 4 of them. Okay, or else the tide is not going to turn on our side. Okay.
So Raihan, what do you think about this?
Thank you to our current patrons, guys. You guys are fucking amazing. So thank you. So, but we need more of you guys. We will translate every single episode. Promise. If we hit 500 patrons.
So yeah, and so Raihan, this actually brings up a good question. Everything that Armin is saying. What is it that this religious, indoctrination and all of this, what do they have? I have my own ideas about this, and I've talked about them previously, but what is it that they're doing that they have that the secular movement or the work that you are doing, the work that I'm doing, the work that Armin's doing, what's the vacuum? What is it that, how can we actually do something that would reverse that trend?
My thinking is two things. We differ with that movement is promotion of fear and promotion of reward. So, like promoting fear and promoting reward. So, anything we do, we don't say that if you read this or if you become an atheist, you get that or you get in heaven. So, we don't have that kind of motivational rewards. We don't have that. You will have unlimited. You won't be dead anymore. You will live forever in a heaven and have grape juice all the time and whatnot. And also, if you don't do it, you will be that's come to the fear that I'll kill you, or Allah will kill you, or do something horrible to you. So personally, I will never be able to promote anything without the merit of that thing, and ask people to believe that based on the offer I'm giving, like reward or some kind of punishment. So that is one of the major difference we have with them, that we don't have lies like false promises. We don't do promises.
Heaven and hell, right? Like that kind of thing.
Here's the thing, though. We can tell them that they're being robbed of this life. So what we're technically what we're offering them is a life.
A life, for sure. Yeah. That's why we do it, and that's why many people became an atheist. So what we can do is like have 20 or 10 children and like try to indoctrinate them with evolution and astronomy and see what happens.
I think there's another element. I've become a little bit more cynical or optimistic. I guess it depends on how you see it. I actually, when you look at studies of things about why people are religious, and especially and we're not talking about the wishy-washy, Jesus is peace. Those people don't really, it doesn't matter, because they're not the ones that we're too worried about. But the really organized fundamentalist religious people, a lot of them, they also become, one thing that they do also have is a sense of community. So they can get together in church, they can go somewhere, they have, the marriages, their funerals, everything is related to the religion, the whole culture. And this is one of the reasons that I disagree with people who say that atheists should not organize. When people say, well, we don't want to be like religious people, we don't want to organize.
As if religion has a monopoly over people getting together.
Right. So, and I actually think as a political lobbying group, as you said, second largest group, right?
Yeah.
After Christians is the nuns, the religious nuns. And then the NONES.
There still should be a movie of the rise of the nuns with the...
Yeah, the rise of that with the U, right? But so do you have that? So when it comes to political lobbying, I think there's a lot of potential there. When it comes to providing a sense of community, because one of the things that people who leave religion, whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity, anything, is that they feel like they've lost a community. Many of them get disowned by their parents. They get marginalized from their communities, and they've lost that. So providing that sense again. Many people are attached.
Can I plug in something now that you said that? Because somebody in the live chat asked for it as well. We are doing that on Atheist Republic. If you go to atheistrepublic.com, there's on the homepage there's a link that says Meet Atheists Near You, and that takes you to somewhere to a page that calls Atheist Republic Consulates. And we have meetup groups in almost every major city, and some of them are huge and very active. Some of them are not very active. So, hoping that some people in there start making it more active. But some of them are very, very, like our Malaysian one, our Filipino ones, our Mexican ones, our a lot of the US ones. Sorry if I don't remember, but a lot of them are very active. So go find a consulate near you and join them and come up with meetups in your area. Yeah.
Right. So that's the whole idea of communities. And when you have groups like, we've had people from Muslimish on, we've had people from ex-Muslims in North America on. Do you have groups like this as well? So, this is also a process that is beginning. It's still in its baby steps, but organization. The third thing I think that really compels people is that, we speak about rationality a lot. We speak about logic. We talk about reason, and that stuff is very, very powerful. I mean, it has transformed the society. That's why the Enlightenment happened. That's why we live in the world today. But there is also an irrational side of humans that responds to emotion, response to art, response to storytelling, and that's why religion is so powerful. It's full of stories, and you can even package up bullshit and make it compelling, because it's emotionally moving and there's a storytelling aspect to it. That's why religion is successful.
People will eat that.
People will. And if we can do that with truth, if we can do that with our ideas, if we can present the work that we do in, through a television series, through stand-up comedy, through movies, through drama, through TV, through novels, fiction, the things like that, stories of people, right? Then that's also something that is, I think that is a major thing, because that is really what touches people. People are moved by that. If you take a concept, an intellectual concept, and you give a lecture on it, or you write an op-ed about it, people will sit there, they'll debate it, they'll process it intellectually. But when a stand-up comedian delivers the same idea in the form of humor or satire, then people will listen. They're much, much more receptive, and that really transforms them. So I think there are many areas that we are.
There's one solution offered in live chat. Jim is doing his part, because he said he has 10 children and he's indoctrinating them with evolution and astronomy.
10 children?
That's wonderful. Yeah, someone already did that.
We have a shirt.
Oh no, he's not saying that. He's not. He's in. I was very, very impressed for a second.
Oh, I thought he was saying
by Jim's sperm, but he said LOL at have 10 children. Okay. When you said that, Raihan was laughing at that. But this reality.
We have a shirt. Again, I'm going to plug one more thing. Atheist Republic has a shirt that says, if you have sex, what is it? Save the planet or something, have sex with an atheist? I don't know. Wait, I have to go find it.
But I think that, again, if this is going to be about ideas, and it's going to be about better ideas, I think that the reproduction factor, we should take it as a plus. The more people there are,
we need to find a way to reach them. I know what you're saying, Ali, but if we don't have access to these, we want to go for their kids. I know that sounds weird.
There is no way. There's no way.
We're coming for your kids.
Secular. That's what we have to do. But there's no way in hell that secularists are going to start having 10 kids.
No, we have to go. That's why we have to go for their kids.
Yeah. If we just take that, cut out that part of Armin saying that's why we have to go for their kids, and we make that said, Armin will be destroyed.
I've already said worse. But seriously, Muslims, if you're listening to this, we're coming for your kids. Yeah. No. But let me.
Yeah. So let's. I wanted to kind of, because I know it's late here in Toronto. So
I find it says support intelligence. Sleep with an atheist. Yeah.
There you go. So it's really funny, because I hear there's a lot of talk nowadays about, and we also talked about this, Armin, in one of our Ask Me Anythings, the race and IQ. And I find a lot of religious conservatives talking about, race and IQ, we have to accept science. And I have to tell them that study after study has shown that people who are religious and people who are conservative tend to have lower mean IQs than people who are liberal and atheist. And it's that's obviously an inconvenient truth. It's interesting. But
Jim is saying, so Mars is saying practicing public speaking on my end and trying to learn the subject well so I can speak on it. Good job, Mars. Jim in the live chat is saying, completely agree with Ali with loss of community when losing religion, providing a sense of camaraderie or brother. Sorry, or brotherhood is a main feature of recruitment of cults or groups like ISIS. Yeah, but we don't want to. But here's another thing I would tell you. On Atheist Republic, when we make groups and stuff, we try to highlight our disagreements, because we don't want to turn into a cult. We don't want to have tribal. We don't want to be tribal. So we want to tell people we don't share anything other than lack of belief in God, and the fact that we think atheists shouldn't be discriminated against. But other than that, we are very different. So that helps because a lot of people say, how could we start a group without becoming tribal? And I say, well, highlight your disagreements. So we ask a lot of questions which highlights our disagreements. Mars is saying, hopefully without sounding like an idiot or someone from left or right. Mike is saying, get them while they're young, which is exactly my point. Yeah.
No, there you go. So I wanted to.
Before we go, can we touch base on the latest guy? Because we scheduled this event to talk about this, and after we scheduled it, somebody from Bangladesh, this guy, 2 days ago, I just checked, it was 2 days ago. He got shot 2 days ago. Can we highlight him a little bit and what happened to him and how did it happen to him and what was he doing and all that just a little bit? Because I feel like it's weird that within the time that we planned this and made it happen, there was one more person that added to the list. So
So this happened. This happened 2 days ago. What happened on June 12th? This is when it was reported. But his name was Shahjahan Bachu. He was an outspoken secularist. He was an open atheist. And he was a publisher. Actually, he had a publishing house that's called Bishaka Prokashoni. And they specialize in publishing poetry. And the way that he was killed was that, and this is again in Bangladesh, he was dragged out of a shop. He was at a shop. He was dragged out of the shop. He was shot dead by attackers who they haven't identified yet. And for a while, we actually haven't had these killings in Bangladesh, and by a while, I mean a few months.
Well, think about how bad the situation is. That's a while, like a few months, right. No killing for a few months. Cross your fingers. Yeah, okay, go on.
Right. So he was 60 years old, and I think he was friends with some of the other bloggers that had been killed. Right, so he had gone. Yeah, you had them on your friend list on Facebook, kind of reading support. Right? Yeah. His daughter announced that his daughter's name is Durba Zahan.
Yeah,
she announced that he'd been murdered. So he had gone to a pharmacy near his house before iftar. He was there to meet some friends, and there were 5 attackers, and they showed up on 2 motorcycles. They came to the area. They actually first blasted a bomb, a homemade bomb outside the pharmacy. Everybody started freaking out. This is according to the Dhaka Tribune. Then they dragged him out of the shop and they shot him, and he died. And so far, nobody's claimed any responsibility. So this is just the latest in what's been happening over there.
Yeah. Just to add one point with Ali's description for Shahjahan Bachu is that he established a enlightened library. Library which contains not Quran but other books, enlightened books, and that also put him in trouble. And in his village, and he
because
also
his library didn't have the Quran. That's what got him in trouble.
No, because of the motivation of setting up that library, enlightening library, right? So
what kind of a place we have to live that people will hate you for setting up a library in a village? Holy fuck!
Because you don't seriously, need library, because Quran has all the things. You don't need a library.
This is bizarre. Like you think like, hey, I went to this place and I opened the library. You would think people would be like, oh, thank you. This is awesome. No, people, this is how fucking anti-knowledge the situation is, where an entire community is hating on you because you opened a library in the village. What the fuck, people? Seriously, this is.
But yeah, to that point, we should keep establishing libraries or writing books, because there are few people who are going to kill you, but these actions will have a huge impact on many others to come.
Yeah, it'll transform. This is the kind of thing that transforms the future. So before we
Mars
go,
has a question. Do you want to ask his last question from the live chat before you end this?
Okay.
Mars is just asking how the three of us define critical thinking.
Critical thinking. So, Raihan, go ahead. You go first.
For me, critical thinking is not to believe anything, not to take anything granted, just to have it tested out, falsification, put a sort of grain on everything you have, and try to decide what what it says. So that's how I try to analyze the information, because there are so many information. So what we need to do, we need to follow the scientific pattern of how to determine what is like good science or bad science. So that's how we should do it.
The scientific method.
I would say recognizing that our thinking process is not optimized to be, and there's a lot of biases and emotional influences in our thinking, and we make a lot of mistakes, and that therefore, instead of just relying on your own personal logic, you get familiar with the processes that people came up with to try to control for all these other factors that make you come up with wrong conclusion. And one of the best thing you could do is just get familiar with the common logical fallacies, and try to detect them whenever don't try to just detect it in other people, try to detect it in yourself. Like if you haven't detected for a while, that means you're not looking, because we all make logical fallacies, right? See if you can detect it in yourself, making logical fallacies. The thing is, again, the focus should be on processes, because you shouldn't trust yourself. None of us have our evolution was not didn't create a brain that was meant to come up work in such a society to think about the things that we need to think about, and that's why we come up with processes rather than just relying on our intelligence. This is exactly what science does as well. Science is a process, and it's meant to control for all these other factors that might give you wrong conclusions. Critical thinking is more personal, and is supposed to introduce you to processes to eliminate these other factors rather than, so no matter how smart you are, it does matter, but you're not going to be immune from these fallacies. So try to learn the fallacies and see if you can detect them in yourself. Yeah. But go on.
Yeah. And I guess it's my turn. My thing is just don't start with the conclusion. Because one of the biggest problems that you have is with all of these, the way that people think. You were talking about whether it's nationalism, whether it's leftist, identity politics, whether it's religion, and especially religion, is people start with a conclusion, then they work backwards, and instead of that, generate a hypothesis. Think of an idea, come up with an inference, don't be married to it, and then look for evidence that supports it or nullifies it. What I like to try to do is I try to prove myself wrong. Right. And one of the reasons I like engaging and I respond more to people who are adversarial, the reason that I've never blocked anybody on Twitter except for one spammer. I've never really blocked people I like the people who bring up arguments against me, is because I like testing my own ideas. I would rather put in all the effort I can to nullify my hypothesis and to try and disprove it first. Right. And this is if you read my book's written in the same way. I like anticipating counter arguments. I know Armin does the same thing, and then trying to preempt them. And whenever you have and things change, like ideas change. One of the biggest things about even conclusions is that they can be added to, they can be modified. You can have truths, but then most of that truth may stay the same, but then other parts of it may be modified later on with circumstances. And that's why I grew up as a Muslim. There's a certain way that I used to think, and now I don't think that way. And you continue evolving, and there's nothing wrong with when people say, well, you've changed, as if it's a negative thing. I'd like to say, no, I've evolved. And I think that's
a very good point, because one thing I want to remind people is that always try to remind yourself that there's a chance that you're wrong. Whatever you're arguing, just remind yourself that there is a chance that you're wrong. And that will make you reevaluate everything. And this is and
I'd also say apply critical thinking to logical fallacies. If someone brought up those logical fallacies, and there are times when, there's like, so you know what they say about Murphy's law, how they say Murphy's law, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Well, that includes Murphy's law. You can apply Murphy's law. And I know a lot of people just shout out logical fallacies without actually, and I'm like, no, not really. Like, but the thing is, even
when you're using logical fallacies, if you're trying to point it to somebody else, don't just name it, like explain it. Like, don't be like, this is your logical fallacy. Like, okay, like try to go over exactly why it's why.
Someone should make it. That should be.
It's a fallacy. It's called a fallacy. But the thing is, a lot of what I think is people that used to be religious and used to believe in God and don't, I think they should remember that you were wrong about something, so like you had completely misunderstood the nature of the entire fucking universe, okay? About who you are, how the universe works. So given that you were so fucking wrong, okay, given that all of us here were so wrong, what are the chances that after that we're right about everything else, right? And this is what I remind people, that it's likely that you're still wrong about a whole bunch of other things, right? Like, so we have to remind ourselves, if we were that wrong, there are probably some other views that each one of us is holding right now, that if we knew how wrong they were, we would be embarrassed right now, right? So just remember that. Anyways, go.
Right. So anyway, I'm just going to close off now. Raihan, I wanted to ask you one last question. Actually, probably two last questions. The first one is, what do you see in the future? How do you see yourself proceeding and continuing to do this work? And not only for yourself here, but also the future of Bangladesh. Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic concerning what you've been through? Do you think it's worth it?
Of course, the effort we are giving, it is worth it. Maybe we became a victim, but it has a positive impact in the society, and I saw that in Bangladesh by just writing books and doing just by talking to them, you can change. I personally saw many people changed their view and became atheists. Some people who were threatening us became atheists just because they were exposed to the idea.
People that were threatening you became atheists because they got exposed to the idea.
No, we've had that. We've talked about that so many times, where people who fought with us, so as they eventually come around sometime later.
Remember that people talk about reform. Just remember that. It's just got to okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do another reform.
So if you can plant a doubt in someone else's mind, that most of the time works, so that he can find out what his problems are, what his doubts are. So that I think that's worth doing. But will Bangladesh change in my lifetime? I really have no idea. I can say that it's not going to change in 2 years or 3 years. But I hope one day the nuns, we will be able to take control of the whole world and have no country, no what can I say, dictators. Everyone will live in peace with happiness and do express themselves with all the abilities they have. But also, I don't know when that is going to happen. But it's worth hoping for and worth fighting for.
Amen.
Yeah.
By the way, Mike is saying you didn't accept his friend request on Facebook, Ellie.
I just did. And because I have to sometimes I've got, I think, what's the maximum amount of friend requests? Like 900 and something. Oh, that's how many friends you can have, but then the number of requests you can have at a time. So it's maxed out and people keep dropping off and deactivating. So it's just, I keep on getting, it's really hard to keep track of it. But Mike, I did.
By the way, to the last comment that you just made, if Muhammad and then Omar, I think mostly, managed to take half of the fucking known civilization by Islam within one lifetime, we should be able to fucking fix this problem within one lifetime as well.
They did it. They did it without the printing press. They did it without airplanes, without travel means, without the internet, without email, without even snail mail. Like, it was insane. And that was But they also did a lot of blood, and that's not what we want to do. I think Carolyn Porco, the astrophysicist, once mentioned something that really resonated with me. First of all, the idea that the world is like the way that the world works. I mean, we have religious people and everything here, but the way that the world works, the way that the system operates now is secular. It works according to science, airplanes and technology, medicine, everything. The second thing that she said
most of the people aren't.
Actually, all right. Yeah, I know. The people are different, but they're functioning in a world that's actually led by the few
because it works. Not because
because it works.
There's no choice.
I know.
Yeah.
But the bigger point that she was making is that religion actually made its debut, organized religion in the sense that we know it, around 10,000 years ago. That's when people started getting into these myths and these religious beliefs. The scientific revolution really started, this whole reason movement started with Galileo, Kepler around the 1600s. That's when it actually became a movement. Of course, it's been around for a long time, but that's actually when it became organized and it got momentum that hasn't stopped to this day. So from Galileo and Kepler up to now, it's only been about 400 years, right? So 400 years compared to 10,000. And if you look at the amount of progress that it's made in 400 years, even though it hasn't really released human beings from that chokehold, right? That mental chokehold. It has the process that we're going to go through. It doesn't feel very fast because the human lifetime is very short, but it's going to most likely
it's
go
not
much,
fast
much
enough
faster.
though. Because here's the thing though. Because yes, if
No, Armin, it's faster than any other.
Still not fast enough because yes, if your prediction is that 500 years from now there's probably no religion.
Oh no, I'm not saying 500. I think it'll be a lot less than that.
Whatever. If 200 years, what's your prediction? 200 years.
I'm not going to sit here and hang.
We are already second in Canada, so
yeah, I think that it's just a matter of.
I just think if it's the difference between 200 years and 201 year, I think the amount of people that are suffering, I don't think that we can be like, well, it's going to happen. So. Yeah, I'm not saying you're saying we should sit back, right? But I'm just saying I'm not saying you're saying that, right? And I'm saying while you're right, while things are moving in the right direction, I think eventually we're all like, first of all, we're not going to be alive for it, so fuck that. Like that's sad. And another thing is, hopefully, someone will figure out how to make us not die. But
I'll say two things about what you're saying. First of all,
I haven't said it yet. I just want to make a point that we should, if you can bring it even a day earlier, you should try to do that because there's too much cost associated with this thing. Okay, this is a disease, and even a minute earlier would be worth speeding it up. So that's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
As Raihan said, that we would all love it to happen tomorrow. No matter what time scale anybody tells you, you're going to want it to happen earlier. And I understand that every time we say that there is some kind of progress happening, there's a sense that's saying, okay, well, no, but it needs to be more. And that's important. That's really important. The way that you're thinking, Armin, is actually really, really important. That's what's making it happen in the first place. But what I'm saying is that the point that Carolyn Porco was making was that the way that this has happened in the last 400 years has been at an astronomical pace.
But it needs to be more astronomical.
Of course it does. It always needs to be.
And it's not happening because of people that say, even the fact that it's astronomical, it's not because of people that are just happy that it's happening. It's because of people that are making it happening.
Proactive, the people who are proactive, but what I'm saying is that when we look at what's happening, it's very important to recognize that it is happening at an astronomical pace, even if we want to make it happen faster. Because if you do want to make it happen faster, you have to look at what we've been doing over the last 400 years. What, like Steven Pinker's book, Enlightenment Now, learning from all of the thoughts and the ideas, refreshing those in the minds of people who may have forgotten, just to let them know that this is the kind of process that brought us here, and this is what we need to do to keep on going further, right? So
the thing is that religion is, if religion is dying a natural death, as people usually say, the ingredients to that death is not just time. Activism is a major part of that ingredients. Yeah.
Well, so of course, that goes without saying.
Well, not for some people. A lot of people think that the only ingredients that you need is time and it's going to go away. Like, not without the people that are making it go away, right? Yeah. I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just adding on to what you're saying. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. We're in complete agreement. Raihan, I know it's it's late
actually,
now, so we're going to let
we're
you
keeping
go.
You. We're not even.
We're keeping you. So I just last thing. Where can people find you if they want to contact you? That's one thing. The other thing is that if there are young people like you in Bangladesh right now, or anywhere in the Muslim world right now, or even in Muslim communities in the West, who are listening to this, or who will listen to this, and they are afraid to speak out, or they want to speak out, or they want to get involved, what's your advice to them?
I would say that don't feel alone. Don't feel that there is no one beside you. There is a huge community all over the world. So, of course, if they should reach out to people like Armin, you, and anyone, and start contributing the way they feel like doing. And of course, if they are from Islamic world and they wanted to speak about Islam, they also need to take care of their security and make sure that they are conscious about their surroundings and how things happening. So to have a sense of where he lives and how to deal with the situation. And of course, there, as I said, that we are here. Many people will maybe they will be just a monitor away from you. So of course, reach out to us, and you have us beside you. And to reach out to me, I have a Twitter account, Raihan Abir, so people can send direct message there. And Raihan space Abir, Abir.
There is no
it's an underscore. I'll put it in the description. I will put it in the description.
Yeah, but some people might not be like listening to the podcast. They might not like. It's good to spell it out for people, just in case, right? Go ahead.
So I'm not like that much active on social media, but if someone send me a personal message on Twitter or on Facebook, I will definitely respond.
Nice. And join the Atheist Republic Consulate in Bangladesh. We have a few there.
Okay, sure.
And anybody that is there, please join the consulate that is close to you and meet the people close to you that are there.
That's a very wonderful initiative. Yeah, I mean, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep on fawning again and just tell you how much I appreciate you being here. I know Armin and I both are just really, really grateful and really honored to have you here. In a world right now where people are talking about free speech, and a lot of that is, we have issues here in the West, like the college campuses, speakers on college campuses, or the NFL and all of those issues with taking a knee, and the SJW movement, the anti-SJW, and all of these people, they talk about this. But I just think that if there is somebody who really knows the importance of free speech and who knows the costs of what it means to fight for it, right, and what you have to give up for it, and you've seen it all around you, and you are still true to yourself, you're still true to the people around you that you care about, for humanity in general. I think that it's just amazing and it's inspiring, and thank you so much for being here. And we're going to have a play day soon.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm also honored to have a discussion with two of you guys. Yeah. You two are also my heroes, and I have been following of you guys for so long, and thanks so much for inviting me. And
Mars is saying in the live chat, Raihan, much thanks for sharing your story. And I also want to say that you guys are definitely like our heroes. Like the amount of what you guys have gone through, none of us have. And when atheism dominates the world, we're going to make statues in your name.
Exactly. We will. Idolatry, good old-fashioned idolatry. Go right.
Thank you. Another live chat. Thank you guys for doing this. Power to the inspiring, immensely brave Bangladeshi atheist. Mike is saying thank you guys. Thank you guys in the live chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Mike. The people in the live chat really makes this a lot better every episode. So yeah, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
The Secular Jihadists have been made possible thanks to the Illuminati and the covert support of Israel and the CIA. That's what we have been told, but we haven't received our checks yet. If you like what we do, please support us. Share the podcast with your friends. Write and tweet us with topic and guest suggestions. Or head over to secularjihadists.com and give $1 or more for exclusive access to live video. Have your questions read and answered on the air, and more. Till next time, may the flying spaghetti monster be with you.